Evelyn stood in her dimly lit room, the air thick with dust and nostalgia as she rummaged through her closet. Her fingers brushed against various trinkets, each holding memories of childhood laughter and summer adventures. Midst the forgotten garments, she stumbled upon an old leather-bound journal. The cover was cracked and worn, hinting at stories untold. Curiosity piqued. Evelyn carefully opened the book to reveal pages filled with delicate handwriting belonging to her late grandmother. She read on, a chill crept down her spine. Entries spoke of encounters with shadowy beings lurking in the corners of one's vision, dark entities that thrived on fear and anxiety. Evelyn's heart raced as she absorbed these unsettling tales, how her grandmother had felt them watching from the depths of shadows. At evening, nestled beneath her blankets, thoughts of shadow people swirled in her mind like autumn leaves caught in a tempest. Darkness enveloped her room, unease settled in like an unwelcome guest. A rustle near the window pulled her attention. He turned slowly but saw nothing, only faint outlines of trees swaying gently outside. At moments later, just out of reach of clear vision, something dark flitted by, a figure barely noticeable yet heavy with malevolence. Evelyn gasped softly but brushed it off as fatigue or perhaps a trick played by moonlight filtering through branches. The morning light, when daylight chased away nightmares into oblivion, she shared what happened with Leonard over breakfast. Shrugged dismissively while pouring cereal into his bowl. His logical approach often provided comfort to Evelyn, even if it could be frustrating at times. He suggested it might have been an illusion created by lingering sleepiness, or simply a play of light among familiar surroundings. Deep down stirred an unsettling feeling, a desire to understand this mystery more fully despite Leonard's words echoing doubtfully in her mind. Days passed since that first encounter with something sinister lurking within shadows, and still those tales from her grandmother haunted Evelyn like whispers carried on an autumn wind. Driven by newfound determination, mixed with trepidation about what lay hidden beyond human perception. To dig deeper into this enigma surrounding shadow people, and their connection to fear, perhaps finding answers would quell that persistent itch at the back of her mind. Dusk fell again that night while darkness draped around their apartment like a shroud ready for concealment. Evelyn found herself staring intently at every corner. The spaces where light met shadow now felt charged with unspoken tension. If each flicker held secrets waiting patiently to be unraveled. He lay awake for hours contemplating legends long dismissed as mere myth, until sleep finally overtook her weary body, but not before making peace within herself about exploring whatever lay beyond those fleeting glimpses seen out of sight. Yearning for understanding, even if it led down paths few dared tread lightly upon, disturbed by her encounter, Evelyn decided to investigate further by visiting Miriam, her enigmatic neighbor known for telling spooky tales. Miriam recounted stories from her youth about neighborhoods plagued by shadow people, and warned that they feed off negative emotions like fear and despair. She told Evelyn about an ancient ritual that could banish these entities, but advised caution once aware of them. Individuals become vulnerable to their influence. Evelyn felt both fascinated and terrified as she learned more. Leonard remained skeptical, but accompanied her out of concern for his friend's well-being. Days passed following this visit. Strange occurrences began infiltrating their lives, objects moving unexpectedly in their apartment accompanied by eerie cold spots and whispers echoing through the night air. Evelyn grew increasingly anxious with each passing moment filled with dread. Leonard tried rationalizing these events until he too caught sight of a shadow darting across their living room wall one evening. Tensions rose between them as fear gripped. Both they decided to perform the ritual Miriam described after realizing they could no longer ignore what was happening around them. They gathered candles and herbs needed for the ceremony while battling their own growing dread. The night designated for confrontation against these dark entities. Tension thickened within their apartment walls as shadows deepened ominously around them. They set up in a dimly lit area where incidents had occurred most frequently. They chanted incantations learned from Miriam's teachings during candlelit silence. Shadowy figures became increasingly visible all around them. A palpable sense of unease intensified dramatically within both characters' hearts alike. The shadows manifested more aggressively, as if reacting violently towards attempts at banishment, muffled sound filled the air amidst panic surging forth for both souls trapped within this haunting atmosphere. Just when hope seemed lost entirely amidst chaos creeping ever closer towards consuming everything whole, a brilliant flash enveloped them momentarily, before returning darkness encased, all once more completely devoid any trace left behind. Ave's stillness lingering eerily throughout space, itself now void without signifier remaining intact. In moments clarity returned, yet no evidence existed suggesting anything transpired. Their apartment appeared unchanged, yet unnaturally. Quiet beyond comprehension itself, wrapping securely around minds tangled together forevermore. Evelyn realized understanding may not always bring peace, even though they seemingly vanquished presence once presently lingering doubts. Twined tightly within souls regarding whether escape truly occurred, or merely entered another phase, characterized solely vigilance against unseen threats awaiting silently nearby. Title: Addo People, Characters. Evelyn, a curious college student, fascinated by urban legends and the paranormal. 2. Entered Evelyn's skeptical roommate, often dismissive of her interests in shadow people. 3. Miriam, an elderly neighbor with a mysterious past and knowledge of local folklore. She becomes a crucial source of information about shadow entities. 4. People, dark, indistinct figures that evoke feelings of dread. They lurk in the background, hinting at their sinister nature. Chapter 1. The first encounter. Evelyn discovers an old journal while cleaning out her closet. Belongs to her late grandmother and describes encounters with shadowy beings. Intrigued, she reads how these entities are seen in the corners of one's vision during moments of fear or anxiety. At night, while lying in bed, a sense of being watched envelops her, and she glimpses a fleeting dark figure near her window. There's this experience with Leonard. He brushes it off as a trick of light or fatigue. Chapter 2. Unraveling the legend. Disturbed by her encounter, Evelyn decides to visit Miriam, their enigmatic neighbor known for telling spooky tales. Miriam recounts stories from her youth about neighborhoods plagued by shadow people, and warns that they feed off negative emotions like fear and despair. It's an ancient ritual that can banish these entities, but emphasizes caution once aware of them. Individuals become vulnerable to their influence. Fascinated yet terrified by the knowledge shared, Evelyn feels drawn deeper into the mystery while Leonard accompanies her out of concern. Chapter 3. Descent into fear. As days pass, strange occurrences begin to plague both Evelyn and Leonard. Objects move unexpectedly in their apartment. Eerie cold spots appear, and whispers echo through the night. Evelyn grows increasingly anxious. Leonard attempts to rationalize these events until one evening, he too catches sight of a shadow darting across their living room wall. Tensions rise between them as fear grips them both. They realize they cannot ignore what is happening any longer, and decide to perform the ritual described by Miriam. Gathering candles and herbs needed for the ritual only heightens their growing dread. Chapter 4. Confrontation. On the night of the ritual, tension thickens in the atmosphere as shadows deepen around them. They set up in a dimly lit area where incidents had occurred most frequently. They chant incantations learned from Miriam's teachings. Shadowy figures become increasingly visible all around them. Feelings of unease intensify dramatically. The shadows manifest more aggressively, as if reacting to their attempts at banishment. Muffled sounds fill the air as panic sets in for both characters. Just when hope seems lost, a brilliant flash momentarily envelops them before darkness returns. There are no signs of shadows, but also no evidence anything happened. Their apartment appears unchanged, yet eerily quiet. Final thoughts. Evelyn realizes understanding may not always bring peace. Despite seemingly vanquishing the presence for now, doubts linger within both characters regarding whether they truly escaped or merely entered into a new phase of vigilance against what could still be lurking unseen. Evelyn approaches Miriam's weathered front porch under twilight skies, filled with secrets waiting to unravel around every corner. The weight of curiosity pulls at her heart, while lingering fears create an unsettling dance within her. A shared resolve tinged with excitement propels both friends toward answers hidden within shadows woven through time itself, as Evelyn and Leonard remained in their dimly lit apartment. Remnants of the ritual hung thick in the air. The candles flickered uncertainly, casting elongated shadows that danced along the walls, mirroring their anxieties. Deep silence enveloped them, heavy with unspoken fears and questions. Evelyn's heart raced as she surveyed their surroundings, searching for any sign of the shadowy figures that had haunted them so relentlessly. Relief mingled with trepidation while no visible threats lingered in the corners. Her mind churned with uncertainties. Had they truly banished the darkness, or had they merely pushed it into hiding? Leonard shifted uneasily beside her, his brow furrowed in thought. His skepticism began to crack under the weight of their shared experiences. He glanced toward Evelyn, whose face reflected both fear and determination, a testament to her grandmother's fierce spirit that had led them to this moment. The hours stretched on as they sat together in uneasy calm, each lost in contemplation. Ticked steadily on the wall, a reminder that time passed despite the palpable tension between them. Just when sleep seemed imminent, a sudden chill swept through the room, a gust rattling against window panes and sending shivers cascading down Evelyn's spine. Exchanged worried glances with Leonard. Something felt different now, as if unseen eyes were watching from afar once more. Shadows lurked just beyond comprehension, the essence of dread creeping back uninvited into their lives. Leonard spoke softly amidst growing apprehension. He suggested revisiting Miriam for guidance, or seeking further clarity about what lay ahead after witnessing such chaos unfold before them. They needed answers more than ever now, and even skeptical hearts could not deny how perilous this journey had become. Evelyn nodded fervently. A shared understanding blossomed anew as they prepared to visit Miriam once again tomorrow morning. After another long night filled with uncertainty loomed darkly over them like an impending storm ready to unleash its fury upon unsuspecting souls below. Broke through soft pastel clouds. One fateful day later, Evelyn found herself at Miriam's doorstep with nervous anticipation swirling inside her chest like butterflies desperate for release from captivity imposed by fear itself. Miriam greeted them warmly, but noticed a shift within Evelyn's demeanor. Almost tangible heaviness cloaked around both friends, radiating palpable anxiety, waiting patiently to be released from shadows lurking nearby, hidden beneath layers. Twined closely across unknown dimensions, hauntingly familiar enough to grasp tightly onto hearts straining against oppressive darkness, threatening suffocation against hope held dearly. With inviting gestures leading them indoors into cozy embrace wrapped securely within walls, adorned lovingly throughout tales whispered softly, each corner harboring secrets cherished long ago, she encouraged conversation, allowing space. Required to unload burdens weighing heavily without restraint, nor judgment welcomed openly, where inquiries reigned supreme among kindred spirits, drawn closer, bonded through shared experiences, navigating treacherous waters fraught danger. Unseen, conversations unfolded gently like petals unfurling beneath morning sun, illuminating pathways towards enlightenment seldom ventured forth previously. They learned about deeper implications surrounding shadow people rather than mere tales. Counted lazily over cups steaming fragrant tea enjoyed leisurely during quiet afternoons, spent reminiscing memories passed down generations, connecting past and present, intertwining eternally woven bonds stronger than chains forged firmly, binding souls together, transcending time itself forevermore. Miriam revealed how maintaining vigilance remained crucial even after performing rituals designed to protect against encroaching malevolence entities, eager lurking behind edges, weaving intricate webs, threading reality, delicately balancing. Rust fragile enough to break under pressure from experiences holding sway far beyond physical realm's limit, mere sight alone could perceive clearly anymore. With each revelation came realization, dawning brighter, illuminating paths, obscured moments prior, opening minds, exploring endless possibilities awaiting those desperately seeking truth, buried somewhere distant, yet beckoning adventurers. Onward boldly, even if journeys led darker places where caution remained necessary, always vigilant, attentive, gentle reminders, woven throughout existence. Take heed, watchful eyes await quietly, nestled patiently, till brave seekers dare venture. Forth reclaimed spaces, stripped away promises broken long ago, guiding hands, faith restoring balance, shattered dreams, scattered ashes, whisper tender melodies reminding wanderers, never let go, hope flickering faintly, glowing amid encroaching dusk, veils descending slowly, wrapping tightly around souls yearning freedom, embracing love, laughter, joy, shimmering brightly, illuminated lights shining brightly pierced shadows cast evermore upon landscapes filled wonder adventure awaiting. Every step tread carefully chosen paths winding endlessly ahead toward horizons promising greater things. Past gates heaven opened wide inviting dreams soaring high above clouds cloaked mystery untold. Idle shadow people, characters 1. Evelyn, a curious college student, fascinated by urban legends and the paranormal. 2. Entered Evelyn's skeptical roommate, often dismissive of her interests in shadow people. 3. Miriam, an elderly neighbor with a mysterious past and knowledge of local folklore. She becomes a crucial source of information about shadow entities. 4. People dark, indistinct figures that evoke feelings of dread. They lurk in the background, hinting at their sinister nature. Chapter 1. The first encounter. Evelyn discovers an old journal while cleaning out her closet. Belongs to her late grandmother and describes encounters with shadowy beings. Intrigued, she reads how these entities are seen in the corners of one's vision during moments of fear or anxiety. At night, while lying in bed, a sense of being watched envelops her as she glimpses a fleeting dark figure near her window. There's this experience with Leonard. He brushes it off as a trick of light or fatigue. Chapter 2. Unraveling the legend. Disturbed by her encounter, Evelyn decides to visit Miriam, their enigmatic neighbor known for telling spooky tales. Miriam recounts stories from her youth about neighborhoods plagued by shadow people and warns that they feed off negative emotions like fear and despair. It's an ancient ritual that can banish these entities, but emphasizes caution once aware of them. Individuals become vulnerable to their influence. Fascinated yet terrified by the knowledge shared, Evelyn feels drawn deeper into the mystery while Leonard accompanies her out of concern. Chapter 3. Descent into fear. As days pass, strange occurrences begin to plague both Evelyn and Leonard. Objects move unexpectedly in their apartment. Eerie cold spots appear, and whispers echo through the night. Evelyn grows increasingly anxious with each passing moment filled with dread. Leonard tries rationalizing these events until one evening he too catches sight of a shadow darting across their living room wall. Tensions rise between them as fear grips them both. They realize they cannot ignore what is happening any longer and decide to perform the ritual described by Miriam. Gathering candles and herbs needed for the ritual only heightens their growing dread. Chapter 4. Confrontation. On the night designated for confrontation against these dark entities, tension thickens within their apartment walls as shadows deepen ominously around them. They set up in a dimly lit area where incidents had occurred most frequently. They chant incantations learned from Miriam's teachings during candlelit silent shadows flicker in response. Dark forms dance at the edges of their vision. Atmosphere thickens further with every repetition, the air electrified by palpable tension surrounding them. And come muffled sounds, whispers crawl beneath their skin, wrapping themselves around thoughts buried deep inside each heart. Evelyn's pulse quickens as she fights to maintain focus, even as fear threatens to consume her whole. An intense chill sweeps through the room, snuffing out one candle after another, until only two remain flickering dimly, amidst encroaching blackness. Panic surges within both friends' shadows, seem to swell closer, now emboldened by rising terror, a suffocating presence closing in upon them relentlessly. Just when it feels impossible to endure another moment suspended between fear and despair, a brilliant flash erupts before them, a blinding luminescence cutting through darkness like lightning, splitting night skies apart for mere seconds. Itself pauses breathlessly, everything changes, and comes quiet once more, a profound stillness enveloping everything around them as clarity returns abruptly without warning. A blink against residual dazzle lingering in their eyes while looking about apprehensively for signs left behind after what felt like eternity spent battling unseen foes. Yet here lay no evidence suggesting anything transpired. Their apartment appears unchanged, everything arranged meticulously, as it had been hours earlier, before embarking upon this journey toward confronting nightmares unbound by imagination alone. A shiver courses down Evelyn's spine. Despite this apparent normalcy, unease creeps back into her mind like mist curling over hills during twilight hours. Unsettling thoughts breach surface where questions linger, waiting patiently. Did they truly banish whatever haunted them, Or had something deeper shifted within those very walls, something far more insidious lying dormant beneath layers woven throughout reality itself? Leonard sighs deeply beside her, a sound heavy with concern yet tinged also with relief when he meets her gaze again, reflecting shared uncertainty coursing between hearts beating fast against contour, shaped by fears, embraced long since forgotten, but never quite removed entirely from Emery's reach. As silence settles comfortably around them once more, is it victory achieved or merely a prelude heralding continued vigilance beckoning forward evermore? Only time would reveal whether shadows remained vanquished or simply waited new opportunities lurking just outside view. In moments where understanding fails us most profoundly lies hope, shimmering faintly along horizons obscured forevermore by uncertainty, cloaked tenderly beneath whispers held hostage. Midst swirling secrets lurking patiently awaiting discovery, anew amongst dreams woven intricately together through night's embrace.